Thank you, Olisa. You can get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Alaba. But I can't see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be the host of another episode of our Meditalk Edge series tonight. I know it is afternoon in the US, but I know it's 8 o'clock here in Nigeria and also 8 p.m. in the United Kingdom. Olisa, as you are already aware, I graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University, Great Ife, in 2005. And I did my house job in the same institution, Wesley Guide Hospital, Olisa, from Enugu, to do my national youth service. After coming back from the youth service, I did some stints in a couple of private hospitals in Lagos and also worked as a medical officer in FMC before I commenced my residency, where I finished as a surgeon. So presently, I practice as an orthopedic and trauma in Delta State. And while I was a student in Ife, I'm opportune to share the same class with some great minds and with beautiful character and good characters. And one who literally is the best among us. She graduated as the best student in our class, and then she proceeded to United States of America. So she did a residency in internal medicine, Michigan State University, and thereafter completed a fellowship in cardiology in university. She was the first female chief fellow. She was not satisfied yet, proceeded to do fellowship in interventional cardiology in the University of Florida. And she's presently working as a consultant interventional cardiologist at NAA Hospital in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and also assistant professor in Arkansas State University. She's a wife to my friend, the wonderful friend Elvis, and they are both blessed. I am excited tonight to invite Dr. Nefantiti, who I used to refer to as Nef, to come and take over from me as our main speaker tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that very wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Olisa. I'm very, very grateful. That was very, very kind of you. I hope everybody can hear me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can, very clearly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Dr. Olisa. And thank you for everybody who's here. I can see lots of faces, or lots of names, I should say. I'm so excited to see everybody here. Thank you. So like Dr. Olisa said, my name is Okundaye-Efeovbokhan. I was admitted to OAU in the year 1997, and we graduated in 2005. So for the next few minutes, I'm just going to talk about, my journey from being a medical student to today being an interventional cardiologist. I'm going to try to talk about a few lessons that I learned that I think have helped me to be successful, and I hope that it will also help the medical students and also my fellow colleagues who are listening. So I entered OAU in 1997. Initially, I was not admitted to internal medicine. My JAM score wasn't good enough. So initially, I entered microbiology. But even while I was there, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. So I worked very hard. And finally, after my first year in microbiology, I was able to change to internal medicine. So I was able to change to medicine. So the first lesson that I learned is that you have to have a passion for what you do. So from the beginning, I was passionate about being a doctor. I wasn't going there to study microbiology. For my first day there, I told myself, this is not what you're here for. Whatever you will do, you can do, you have to do to make sure you change to medicine. So that's the first thing that I feel has helped me in my career, having a passion. I wake up every day and I'm excited to be a doctor. It's like falling in love with my husband or every day. When I wake up every morning, I try to fall in love with medicine every day. And I think that that has helped me avoid burnout, because I really love what I do. If I were given $1 million or maybe $1 billion, and maybe not $1 billion, maybe that's exaggerating. But the point though is I love medicine. Like I read some things on the internet and they say, you instead of working these hours in medicine, you should do this. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't want this. This is medicine is what I want. So I feel like that passion has actually helped me achieve a lot. Now, the next thing that I think has really, really helped me is planning. So, planning is so vital. Like I said, I was initially admitted into microbiology, but I knew that I wanted to go into medicine. So from day one, I had to ask myself, how do I plan to make sure I get into medicine? So in those days, I think you had to have a GPA of, I think it was more than 3.5. And if you had that, you could directly change from whatever whatever you were studying in the sciences to medicine. So from day one, my plan was, how am I going to make sure I get a GPA above 3.5 so that I can directly move to medicine? And thankfully, I did that. Now, when I finally became a medical student, from day one, I knew I wanted to do my residency in the United States of America. So from day one, I had a plan. How am I going to leave Nigeria, do my exams, and move to the United States? So by the time I got into my clinical years, especially my later years, my part 5, my part 6, I had my plan. My plan was to do USMLE. I knew nothing about USMLE. I just knew that I had to do it. And unlike now, in those days, we really didn't have the internet or anything. So luckily for me, when I got into my part 6, there was a resident. He was a surgery resident, Dr. Oke from UCH, and somehow he had some idea about the USMLEs. I don't know if he had written it or whatever, but he introduced me to some books, and so that was how I learned about like the USMLE world and stuff like that. And I made up my mind that, by the time I'm doing my house job, in addition to doing my house job, I also have to begin to study and write my USMLEs. So those days, okay, I think this will be the next session. My next, I'll talk about that in a little bit more. So my plan was, get to know everything about USMLE, make sure you study and do everything that you need to do to go to the United States. But I also had a plan B, because in as much as I wanted to go to the US, I realized that, it may not work. I may not get a visa. So my plan B was the fact that I would stay back in Nigeria and I would do a surgery residency. So the same way I was pursuing my USMLEs, I was also pursuing my Nigeria residency. So I think it was during my house job, I went ahead and I wrote my primaries, and luckily I passed. And after my primaries, I actually started my surgery residency in Nigeria before I was finally able to travel to the United States. So the point is, you have to have a plan. I don't know what year the medical students are. I'm guessing you guys are in your clinical years from part 4 to part 6. So this is the time for you to sit down and have a plan. What do I want to do? What specialty am I interested in? So for me, I came into medicine because I wanted to be a gynecologist, and the reason why I wanted to be a gynecologist was because the only doctor I had in my family was a gynecologist, and so as I started going to medical school, that was also in my head: gynecology, obstetrics, and gynecology, and when I eventually did the rotation, I mean, I liked the specialty. I especially liked it because you had the medical part and you also had the surgical part. But then the intimate exam was definitely not for me, and I was like, nope, nope, nope. I don't think I can do this all the days of my life. And then I decided I wanted to become a urologist, and after a while, I'm like, I don't think this is for me. Then I decided I wanted to become a cardiothoracic surgeon. And eventually I became an interventional cardiologist. So the point is, it's okay for you to change your mind. As you keep going, you will find out the things that you like and the things you do not like. It's fine. Just make sure that you really understand yourself. You know what you like, because if you do not like what you do, you're going to be miserable. So just like I said initially, you have to have a passion for whatever you eventually decide to do. So the next thing I learned, in addition to being passionate and trying to plan early, I also learned that there is no substitute for hard work. You have to burn the candle from two ends. There's just no substitute. There's just nothing you can do. So like I was talking about, when I was trying to come to the US. At the time, it wasn't like now that you have a phone where you have internet. Back then, during house job, the only place we used to have internet was at conference center. So what I used to do, I would go there from like 10 p.m. and I will study, do online questions from 10 to like 6 a.m. And then by 6 a.m., I will get up again and go for my house job duties. So, you really, really have to work hard. There is just no substitute. But, it becomes really easy when you love what you do. Because for me, it wasn't a punishment. I mean, I was excited to learn. I was excited to, whatever I was doing, it was like candy for me. It was really, really delicious. I was just, soaking up the knowledge, and it was just beautiful. But that's why, you really have to have a passion, because when you have a passion, it propels you. So even now as an attending, I still wake up by 4 a.m. every morning, because for me, I realize that I'm an early morning person. I like to start my day early. So I wake up by 4 a.m. I get to work by 5:30. That helps me clear my head. It helps me, I'm really, really organized. That's something that my colleagues really talk to me. They're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, well, I have a passion, and I know myself. I know how I work. So you really have to know yourself, what works for you. Some people are night people, some people are morning people. That should also influence your choice of career. If you're someone who likes to work in the night, maybe the emergency room, or I don't know, or things where you function better in the night may work better for you. So another thing is, another lesson that I learned is that, no matter how diligent, passionate, hardworking you are, you would always have setbacks. It just comes with the territory. So the question is, when you have setbacks, what do you do? So for me, I had a wonderful time as a medical student. I had very great grades. I had, so when I decided that I wanted to do my residence in the US, like I said, I actually learned a lot about the USMLE. In those days, you could only write the USMLEs from Ghana. So I actually wrote my step one and my step two in Ghana. And then I just went to the embassy and I told the person that, so initially, I went to the embassy to get a visa, and everybody said, don't tell them you're going there for your residency. You will never get a visa. Just tell them you're going to visit. So I went there and I told them I was going to visit my auntie. And of course, they denied my visa. And I was so depressed because I already had the date to write my step 2 CS. And I was planning that, I go there, write my step 2 CS in August. And then after that, I go ahead and I get my residency interviews. But all of that was just, there was nothing I could do. I didn't have a visa. I couldn't write my step 2 CS. I had to go to the US for that. But I decided not to be discouraged. I told myself, you know what, you have a plan B. So it was at that time that I actually started my surgery residency in OAU. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go back again and apply for this visa. So this time around, I went back and I said, I'm actually going to the US to do my residency. And the lady was like, oh, wow, you're going there? I said, yeah. She said, so why, I mean, have you done the exams? And luckily for me, I was able to show her my step 1 and my step 2. And to the glory of God, I actually had good scores. And she was like, oh, wow, you did so well. And right there and then, she just told me, come and get your visa at this particular date. So I used that opportunity to go to the US, and I did my step 2 CS. And luckily for me, while in Nigeria, I had already applied for some residency spots and I got some interviews. And that was how I matched into internal medicine. I did my internal medicine in Michigan State University. At the end of 3 years, I got accepted into a fellowship in cardiology. So everything was just smooth sailing until I went for my interventional year. And that was like one of the most difficult years in my life. It was a very, very tough year. To start with, I started by having immigration issues. I had outstayed my regular visa, and it took me a while before I was able to finally get my permanent residency. And all of this was, I couldn't start my interventional year on time because I had those immigration issues. As if that was not bad enough, I was just struggling. Like, me who before now was so confident in myself, I don't know what happened to me. All my confidence was just zero. I would go to the cath lab, I would not be able to cannulate the vessels. I will struggle. My attending will come, and the thing I've been trying to do for 30 minutes, he would just come and he would do it in 1 second. And it was just like, my goodness, what is going on with this girl? On top of that, I had a lot of losses in my family. I just could not concentrate. But I'm like, Nefertiti, you cannot give up. You have to keep fighting. This is what you've always wanted to do all your life. Now you have come to this point, you cannot give up. So I just kept on going. I just kept on going. And to God be the glory. I eventually graduated, and I thought I was a very horrible operator, but at the end of the day, my attendings were so complimentary, and they were like, oh yeah, we had to be so hard on you because we knew that you had greatness in you, and we had to bring it. And I'm like, oh, well, you could have been a little softer, but that's another story for another day. So the point is, no matter what, you were going to have setbacks in this journey. All you just have to do is, you have to be determined. You have to keep telling yourself, this is what I'm passionate about. And no matter what, I will keep on trying to do the best that I can do. So another lesson that I've learned is, you have to continue to strive. Even when you eventually graduate, you become a doctor, you finish your residency, you become an attending, you must never get to a point where you say, oh yes, I have arrived and now I can sit down. There are always territories to conquer. There are always things that you can be better at. There's always the next step, and you must always challenge yourself and say, you know what, I have to go to the next step. You don't become an attending and you say, oh, I'm not going to read anymore because I know it all. Oh no, you never know it all. So for me, I do have these journals that are sent to me on a daily basis. Of course, I really don't have the time to sit down every day to read. But at the end of the week, either Friday or Saturday, I make sure I sit down and I try to make sure I'm abreast with the new changes in my career. I try to read journals and make sure that, I'm up to date. So the kind of practice I have, it's mainly clinical. So I mainly just do my clinics and I do my procedures. But, at the end of the day, after I do a procedure, I go back and I study, what could I have done better? I also, in addition to that, I also look at my partner's procedures. How did they do it differently? Is there something I can learn from them? And then I decided that, I also have to be involved in research. I wasn't just satisfied just seeing patients. And my institution, I really don't have that opportunity. So I had to hook up with my mentors in my residency. And thank God for COVID, because, COVID actually took us like 20 years into the future. Now we can interact with Zoom. So I'm part of a research group in Michigan and I live in Arkansas. We have our meetings over Zoom. We're able to write our papers and just collaborate. So the point is you always have to make sure that next thing, You always have to make sure you're going forward and never staying backwards. And that actually helps you to prevent burnout. Because if you feel like, oh, you've conquered all the territories, there's nothing to conquer anymore, then, the law of diminishing return begins to set in. You have to make sure that there's something. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And you have to keep going. Then another thing is that another lesson that I've learned is, you have to learn how to collaborate and not to compete. You have to see everybody as a collaborator and not a compete. You're not competing with them. I mean, like my colleagues now, majority of them, I haven't seen them in the last 17 years. So if I was wasting my time competing with people and being petty, it just doesn't help. So try to, in my opinion, you were never the best in anything. There's always somebody who is better than you. So instead of being envious of them, why don't you get closer to them and say, how do you do this? What can I learn from you? Teach me some tips and tricks. And I try to do that. I go to my colleagues and I'm like, I see that. So for example, if I'm going to do like a pacemaker, like when I started doing pacemakers at the time, we used to pace in the apex. Now we're pacing more in the septum. And I see that most of my colleagues are putting their leads in the septum. And I go to meet them like, how do you do it? Teach me, let me learn from you. So you never compete with anybody. Should actually see, you have to realize that we all have our race to run, and that should be your focus. Your focus should be, how can you run that race and how can people around you help you succeed? And another thing that I've also learned is that you have to have joy outside of medicine. Now, for the medical students especially, make sure you don't give up on your hobbies, whatever the hobbies are. If you like to dance, if you like to read, don't let medicine consume you so much that you don't have time to give some extra time to your hobbies. Because at the end of the day, you have to have joy outside of medicine. There should be something that makes you happy, not just medicine. It could be your family, it could be anything. There should be, I feel like you have to have joy outside of medicine, because that will be the energy that will fuel you. So for me, these are the things that I've learned. I've learned to be very passionate. I've learned to plan, and just not just passionate about the not just the subject, but also the patients we serve. I think that the greatest opportunity I've been given is being a doctor. I mean, I walk into the room and people do not look at my color, they do not look at my background, they do not look at my accent. Just the fact that I call myself Dr. Efeovbokhan, they open up to me, and things that they will never tell anybody, they tell me. So I feel like that is the greatest opportunity I have been given, to serve people. So I take that very seriously, because like I said, I don't take it for granted at all. I walk into a room and at times some people ask me, are you playing doctor? And I'm like, no, I'm really a doctor. But they've never seen me before, and they trust me with their lives. They trust me with their heart. They believe that, just the fact that she says she's a doctor, she can fix my heart. She can do everything. So I don't take it for granted. I take it as the greatest honor of my life. And because of that, it makes me work even harder to make sure I never disappoint my patients, and that the trust they give me is never wasted. So in a nutshell, these are the things that I've learned in my career, and these are the things that keep me going every day. And I think the last but not the least is that you have to stay humble. Like I said, you haven't arrived. There's always something to do ahead of you. And I think that with that humility, if you stay humble, that will also make you great. Thank you. Olisa, you want to come take over?
Yeah, thank you very much for that wonderful talk. It's that, I must confess, it blew my head away. Anyway, this is the question time. If there's any one of our students that wants to ask any question, either from the host or from the main speaker, this is that time for you to ask and ask your question away. Go ahead, Tebi.
Correction, no be students. Anyway, Nev, what's up? How you doing? I
I'm
beg.
good,
What
Wait,
time
let's
do
see
you...
your face now.
No. Okay. My own question is, what time do you get to sleep?
Okay, so there's a difference between what time I want to sleep and what time I get to sleep. My body wants to sleep by 8 o'clock, but in reality, I really don't get to sleep till about 10 o'clock or so. It depends on the day, because like, I have little kids, so I still have to try to get them ready for school for the next day and stuff like that. So majority of the time, I think majority of the time by 10 o'clock, I'm in bed. Majority of the time. Of course, I also take STEMI calls. So once in a while, that just disrupts everything. But on the weekend, you can ask Elvis, I sleep like a log of wood.
Nice, thanks. Nice connecting with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Tosin, you can go ahead. Tosin, please ask your question.
I think we should ask Tosin to unmute. Let's
Tosin,
see.
you have to unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, go ahead. I think you are good to go.
I would like to ask for mentorship because I happen to have an interest in the field of interventional cardiology. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Alaba, I think the
Yeah.
sessions I've listened to in the past, Alaba, yes, I'm sure Alaba has a way, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a nice method around that even includes some governance for everyone's safety. So how it works is if you send an email to that Gmail address I posted earlier on, which I'll put back on again in a minute, and then we can always link you up directly with Dr. Nefertiti or anybody else you want to get in touch with directly. That way we can track who's in touch with who and what's going on in the background.
Thank you very much.
All right, so yeah, all the best. It looks like there's a question in the chat, I think.
Okay. Tosin, are you not satisfied with the answer? Are you still raising your hand?
No, I'm actually satisfied. I'm satisfied. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Olafare, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Okay.
I will unmute and unvideo myself. Good evening, guys. I'm excited to be here today. I've not been joining this program because I always see this the adverts on Instagram. In fact, I go to Instagram like maybe once in a month or so. So when I saw this one a week ago, so I had to put on my calendar to join. So I joined like 30 minutes before everybody. Well, I don't have a question per se, but I think I've had what I'm saying. I'll end it with a question for Nef. Nef, it's good, so good to see you after so many years. But I want to take you back some memory lanes. You remember in microbiology, part 1, when you saw your first semester results, and you were like, I think we were in one of those laboratories, and you're like, Nef, this is not you. Just the way you're telling yourself now that this is not me. Me. It's happening to you. You'll be talking to yourself like that. So I remember in one of that, I think it was a zoology lab. We came in through microbiology together. They're like, what is happening to you? And I was just looking at, oh no, this girl. What's wrong with you? Then I just saw your momentum pick up from that time. When we're all busy in class, gisting and talking. Nef is always at one corner. I don't know if anybody noticed that. That is why I was at one corner, still reading. I said, but I thought you read yesterday. So we were initially friends. She would be calling me, let's go and read. Let's go. Yeah, I still need time to do other things. So I don't read like you read the place. So I just left Nef alone. Then I thought it was only me. So when I asked Elvis about this in the clinical yesterday, so boy, how do you cope with your girlfriend? He said, this madam, no, no. Elvis, you too. I said, just leave madam alone. I cannot read the way she's reading. I said, okay. So I understood the momentum. Your passion really grew, and it impressed me. I wondered how you did it, but you have shared part of your experience, and things you've learned with us. My question will be, what made you you seem to have more energy than an average medical student? Okay, is it just passion, or what? I'm just looking at what I'm going to tell my daughter that's interested in medicine. What she should do, because I know I don't have the energy for that. Okay, maybe I'm a bit old out. Maybe I don't have the brain to carry it like that again, because I know that if I read for 2 hours, I'm done. I'm done for that day, in fact, or at least for that session. 2 hours is max. Okay, but how do we push children that we're raising now and say, oh boy, because she will ask me, Daddy, how many hours do you read in school that time? Daddy, how many? So I don't know what I'm going to be able to tell my kids, especially the ladies. I know the ladies seem to have better resilience reading, I want to know what I'm going to tell, my kids. I say, okay, this is what you should have in your mind, so that you can read for 6-8 hours at a stretch, and you're not sleeping. Because you said you read one from I think 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then you now prepare for your house job. Oh boy, careful. You cannot happen. What? So I'm sure by that time I will have slept like, normally I sleep at 12. I can't, there's nothing you will tell me I must sleep at 12. So I better start reading earlier. So I think one other thing that the students on the call today should take away is also the fact that you need to know yourself, and know your ability, and know what you can do. And planning is very essential. Okay, you plan, and plan that suits your personality and type of thing you can do. Okay, so that will be my question. Nef, what do I tell my daughter? I want to live like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olafere. I don't remember the zoology stuff, but I can imagine that's what Nef said. That's probably that's how Nef rolls. Okay, having said that though, so to be honest with you, Olafere, I don't know. For me, I think some of it is also gifting. And like you said, we need to know ourselves. I have a very high endurance level. Now, I don't know if I believe a lot of it is gifting, but it could also be my background, because I went to a military school. So between the age of 10 and 16, I was treated like a soldier. So from the age of 10, I learned how to wake up by 3 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that, I learned that endurance from a very young age. But now the question though is, I don't know if it is necessary to always read over that stretch of time. I don't know. I don't know if you necessarily have to do that. I think at the end of the day, you just have to maximize your time. Now, like one thing I didn't say that you actually reminded me of is, during my residency, I did not have that 6 hours, 8 hours that I had as a medical student. I didn't have it because, of course, I had more clinical responsibilities. But what I learned how to do was to maximize my time. Like you said, when the other residents, when we finish our work and we have like an hour and everybody's sitting down and gisting, I will run to the library. The librarian knew me. I had my seat. I will sit there for that 1 hour before I get another patient to go see. So I think what you have to tell your daughter is, yes, if you have the time, it is good to read over the stretch of time. But more importantly, you have to learn how to maximize your time. Any little time you have to learn how to be productive, especially in this day of social media. Instead of screening, of going to Facebook and all that, well, let me not say nonsense, but things that may not be productive at that time, it may be better to just, read an article, because now you have everything at your fingertip. Go to, they probably have Kifmo, an app or whatever. Use your time maximally. That's what I would say.
Remy, you can go ahead.
I'll unmute myself. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. Hi, Neff, so good to hear from you, and so good to hear your talk today. Great talk. My question was, how do you, what would you tell people, that are listening about work-life balance and how to avoid burnout?
Absolutely. I think that that's an excellent question. So like the first thing I said, I said you have to have joys outside of medicine. Medicine cannot be your all. So for the medical students especially, do not give up on your hobbies. Whatever hobbies you have from your secondary school, make sure you keep it. Even if you have only like 30 minutes, an hour a day to work on those hobbies, make sure you keep it. Now, work-life balance, especially for us women, could be very tricky. So for me, I believe that you have to have a very, very good support system. So if I told you that I did it all, I'll be telling a lie. I have a lot of support, and I'm never ashamed to ask for help. My husband is wonderful. Like I said, I leave for work at about 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm almost never able to take my kids to school. But I have a good support system. I have people who take my kids to school, bring my kids home, and then they're home before I'm able to come home. So I guess, like, I think what I learned is that you need a lot of help. You cannot do it by yourself, and you must never, ever, ever be proud to ask for help. If people want to help you, let them help you. Asking for help, receiving help is not a sign of weakness. If anything, is a sign of strength. Have other joys outside of medicine. There should be something you should be eager to come home to when you're done with work. For me, it's my children. I love to kiss them and play with them and run with them. That gives me a lot of energy. So you have to find that thing that gives you joy outside of medicine.
Thank you.
City, I want to ask this question from you. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Considering the fact that we are getting old now and we have to balance our work with our health, we need to live healthily. So what advice can you give us now as the senior medical doctor, so to say, on how to be able to balance your busy schedule with a healthy life?
Right. So personally, I work very hard from Monday to Thursday. And luckily for me, the way my work is, I work 1 to 2 weekends per month. So the Fridays that I don't work, I get that day I actually wake up earlier. I get to work by 4 a.m. that day, and by 7 o'clock, I'm done. And I don't, from 7 a.m. that Friday to 4 a.m. the next Monday, I'm not working. I'm resting. I'm just making sure that I'm rejuvenated for the next week. I also exercise. I try to do about 30 minutes or so every day. I get on the treadmill, I do my squats, I lift my weights. I try to do that daily. The word is try. I don't always achieve that goal, but I try my best to exercise. I also eat very healthy. That is really, really important. I make sure I eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm trying to leave the red meat alone. So those are the things that I do to stay healthy. I pay very close attention to my diet. I pay close attention to exercising. I rest. I work really hard during the week, but the weekends I try to rest a lot to try to make sure that my body is strong for the next week. Yeah.
Thank you.
And of course, I try to see my doctors too.
Okay, that is nice.
Thank you very much, Nef, and thank you, Dr. Olisa, for this wonderful session.
Yeah.
I know that you've spoken a lot. From we that know you know how, being on rounds with you, you'd be like, oh my God, Nef is here. It's going to be a discussion between consultant, resident, and Nef. And then the students are there, including myself, because you put that in, and you've told us some of the tips you use to balance your life, right? It's always a question. I wondered how you did it, but you did it and you came out top all through medical school. So congratulations for being where you are and sharing the tips. And thank you also, Dr. Olisa, for this session. I don't think I see any more questions in the chat right now. I see congratulations. I see well done, Nef. Thank you, everyone that has joined.
Thank you.
And thank you for this session. So as was said earlier on, if you have any questions, please remember that the OAU Med email, it's posted in the chat, is available. Please make sure to go there, send an email there so that we can link you up to any of the people that have spoken. They're in great choices of work, and you can always link up to them through us. So thank you so much, Nell. Thank you, Olisa. I see lots of congratulations from Anne, from Amaka, from Yetunde, from Bodri, from Tegbe. Everybody's saying well done. There are lots of names I haven't seen in a while. Hi, Etse. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. So we're going to stop this recording in a minute. And the students can exit. If you have further questions, please remember, send an email. We will need to have some discussion because of a recent incident. So we would allow the students to please go. I'll stop the recording. Thank you.